This is TV8 by Gemma, a podcast about entertainment issues brought to you by darkcrazy.com.
This is Marvel Age Star Wars, at least our special edition series where we discuss The Mandalorian. My name is Sean. I'm sitting here with Brooks and Andrew.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Together and in person.
If you didn't catch the last couple reviews, Andrew is from the TV8 My Dinner side of our business. He's been...
And I'm taking my helmet off.
Yeah, he's not wearing the Boba Fett helmet.
I don't follow the old ways anymore.
Yeah, now you follow the older ways, it turns out.
Yeah.
As revealed in this episode, it's like, wait a minute.
So we're talking about episode 3 of season 2.
Yeah, the Heiress.
Right.
And I need Sean to explain so many things to me because Sean is the one who knows all about the lore, the expanded universe stuff.
We tried to tell you to watch Rebels, that it would.
I know, but I can't. I ain't got time to do that before each episode of Mando comes out.
It's on for 4 seasons.
Yeah. I want to watch. Yeah, I want to watch Mando without doing any homework. So that's what you're here for. Just tell me who these Mandalorians are. Or I guess we could recap the story.
Yeah,
it starts off.
It's called the Mandalorian.
He barely, lands his ship, and it falls into the water. I feel so bad for him.
Which is awesome. Yeah, I love.
And I like how the Dark Patrol's like, you're coming in too fast. He's like, I got it.
Yeah, it's because I'm falling.
You might want to consider slowing down.
Yeah. Slow your descent.
I like how Star Wars only applies, like they only bring in the rules of science when it makes it fun. Because any other time in Star Wars, they just go to the absolute no problem. It doesn't matter. And this is like, it could be fun if he burns up.
I've never even seen them do that before.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
The frog lady can now understand everything he says.
Why do they not normally have fire when they come in? Is it
because it's fantasy? It's not sci-fi.
Yeah, it's like that his ship being damaged causes fire to form.
Well, I guess you could say that normally they have some kind of shields that keep that sort of atmospheric burn from happening when they come in. He's got next to nothing. It's not even pressurized and sealed for outer space. So
yeah,
I'm assuming that most of the normal navigational protections aren't there.
So poor Mando crashes the ship. They hoist it out of the water. I like seeing the what we used to call squid head.
Yeah, Quarren is what they are.
Quarren. I'm old school. And the calamari or whatever.
It's kind of cool because I was watching
calamari.
I think it was Jessie Gender I was watching. She did a video on this episode, and she said that this was the Mon Calamari homeworld, which it's not. I did find it interesting that it's sort of an aquatic moon where there's a bunch of like Mon Calamari and Quarren living there because they do live on the same homeworld in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, they named this planet in the last episode, didn't they?
Isn't it Trask, I think?
Yeah, something like that.
And I think it's a moon of a larger planet, but I don't think it's Mon Calamari. And I wonder if this is sort of an homage to some of the stuff. Because the Mon Calamari homeworld took a beating in the war with the Empire. I think these are probably sort of refugee settlements from that planet.
Yeah, it didn't look very built up. It didn't look like a fancy place by any means.
Yeah, and it sort of attracted the dregs. There's just this whole ship full of mean Quarren. One guy I was convinced was Jason Momoa, and I don't know who is doing the voice. But
oh, weird. I didn't catch that at all. I
was like, that's Jason Momoa.
The frog lady and the frog daddy come together, and everyone's happy, and yada. He goes into, she says, go check out this place because there's a Mandalorian. Someone in there knows who Mandalorians are, and he goes and he asks them.
I guess, yeah. And then
that information is so valuable in this world.
Apparently, it's just like,
this is consistent.
What time is it? I will tell you if you go fetch this item from me.
Yeah, even
and I'll tell you where to find a man.
That's all right.
I used to work with a dude.
She's going to take him to the husband or anything.
I used to work with a dude that was like that, where he's like, "Hey, man, if you want to get hold of one of these, you go to my buddy who works in a tire place, and you help him, and he'll give you a tire. You can take the tire and give it to a dude." Like, look, man, I'm just gonna pay for the thing I want. That's the normal way this is done.
We built an entire economic system that means we don't have to do that nonsense.
But it devalues the information.
Bullshit bartering that you're talking about.
But it devalues the information when he's like, "So tell me who can show me." And he finally pays him. He's like, "There." He's like, "He's right there."
Like, yeah, but there are times when he even says, I'd rather I have coin or whatever. I have money. And it's like, no, we need you to go do some crazy weird quest.
Right.
Got to slay some dragons somewhere.
Because the world is that dangerous. It's so dangerous that no matter how poor they are, they still need someone to kill some horrible monster for them.
I mean, it is totally video game. It's so video gaming. That's what it like. It's always a pretty consistent
situation.
Was it in the Naked Gun or was it in the Police Squad show? I think it might have been Police Squad where, Draven comes up and he's asking some shoe shine guy a question. And the guy's like, "I don't know. My memory's not so good." So he gives him like $10. And then he tells him and he's like, "Why do you want to know?" And Draven's like, "I can't say." And then he gives him the $10 back and they go back and forth, giving each other the money back and forth. That's how it feels like.
That's the way this whole world works. Nothing makes sense.
So they set him up on I guess they know is it their armor that they're after?
Why do they? Yeah, like that's the one down. I kind of like that because when he was walking around in beat up armor, nobody cared. But ever since, this is sort of the danger of leveling up because now he wears this super fancy, he basically has like $1 million suit of armor that he's wearing everywhere, and he didn't paint over it to make it look crappy. It's like it's brand new, shiny. Everybody knows what it is. It's like mithril silver. And he's just wearing it on the outside of his shirt.
They're not interested in Baby Yoda at all.
Some of them seem to be. I would have thought those guys that jumped them on Tatooine seemed interested in Baby Yoda. But these guys didn't care. They dumped them in Sarlacc.
That's I thought at first when I felt this was a trap, like, oh, they know about the child. But then they just kicked it right into the water.
God.
Like, is that not what you're after?
Yeah.
And then they kick him in.
More careful with that baby.
Are they guessing that whatever's down there will just eat Mando and then they'll just get the armor out of it?
Well, they're trying to stab him.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they figured they could just go back to port and just drain the hull and they drown the thing inside would die.
They'll just wait for it to evacuate itself.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Like this,
take it to the vet. Like, it swallowed something. We're gonna need it out.
Really? So then the other Mandalorians show up, and this is a big moment for people who've watched Clone Wars and Rebels, because these characters, especially Bo-Katan, I think one of the other characters was also in Clone Wars, but Bo-Katan was a big part of Clone Wars and Rebels. So
she's a Mandalorian.
So for real Mandalorian.
She's of the race Mandalorian.
Yeah, from the real planet. Like when you go in Clone Wars and they go visit Mandalore, at that point in Clone Wars era, her sister was running the planet. And then some stuff went down, and then she became part of a dissident group that was sort of like hardcore Mandalorians, because there was a sort of schism at that time where some people had lost faith in the New Republic. There was a point where Darth Maul took over and he was running Mandalore.
He gets all over the place. Goodness.
Yeah, he was an awesome bad guy in Clone Wars. It's funny, just recently, these articles are coming out where George Lucas was saying his plan was to bring Darth Maul back as the main villain of the sequel trilogy. That was his idea for the sequel trilogy. And you can see where that was sort of realized in Clone Wars instead, because he was all over, and that led to him when he became the leader of that. What's the name of that gang that he's the leader of?
The Black Sun or something. Oh, Black Sun or something. Am I wrong?
Shadow Collective, yeah. But Shadow Collective.
I'm thinking of in the Solo movie, whatever those guys are called.
Yeah, they're Black Sun, but I'm pretty sure they're part of the Shadow Collective. But that was all around the time.
Otherwise unaffiliated.
Yeah, we're Black Sun 2 unaffiliated, like a Chinese.
There are layers. Layers.
But
it's all Illuminati stuff.
But at the point where he took over Mandalore, like Bo-Katan broke away and she went into hiding, and her group comes up later on in Rebels.
But all those plot lines also always revolve around the black saber thing too. That
it's a
we
big
saw
part
last.
of it.
Yeah,
because whoever
That's
has
what-
that, it's like the ceremonial weapon of whoever rules Mandalore.
right.
And that's the thing that the Imperial guy has
Yeah.
at the end of season 1.
And
What's
that's
his
what
name?
she wants. Gideon.
Gideon.
Moff Gideon.
Okay.
But
And that's a Mandalorian lightsaber of some sort.
I assume, I don't remember if they said
like
it. It used to be Pre Vizsla's the one who had it, and he was like the head of that dissident group. And he was voiced by Jon Favreau in the cartoon.
But it's not like a saber that it's like always. It's like a blade because it doesn't ever
think
retract
it's
or
like
whatever.
An early version of a lightsaber, and this would go back to the lore that they don't even really touch on in the Clone Wars and stuff. But this would go back to the period where the Mandalorians actually fought the Jedis. So you actually have this ancient lightsaber that they got hold
And there's
of.
only one of them.
Yeah.
Like Excalibur kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's basically
essentially,
what it
that's
is.
exactly what it is. So whoever has that, they're like the ceremonial ruler of Mandalore. Obviously not the real one, because they keep getting deposed. So it doesn't mean a lot to have that sword, but it means a lot to Mandalorians. So
Right.
it disappeared. Maul had it for a while because he ruled Mandalore, and then Sabine got it back from Maul in Rebels, and then I don't know if we know fully what happened after that. Obviously,
Did she keep it in Rebels?
I can't remember if she kept it or she was trying to get it back to Bo-Katan. I thought she kept it, but I can't remember that for sure.
I don't remember that at all.
But I do need to rewatch the end of Rebels because it's been a while, and there's a lot of fun story stuff. Like I said, I can't recommend enough for people to watch Rebels. Like Clone Wars, there's a lot to get through there, and it's not consistently fun, but Rebels is consistently fun. Like the story is fun, the characters are fun, and they have a lot of awesome moments.
And it's actually more kid friendly too than Clone Wars. Like you think you try to get a kid to watch that, they're like, because it's like,
I've been there.
Rebels is made for kids. It's like it's a more kid friendly show, but it's more, there's more cool, fun things that come in.
It's more fun stuff. There's more action in it. The story moves further. There's a lot of stuff. The Clone Wars is like a relic of the prequel era because there's a lot of stuff that just sort of drags out and no one would care about in terms.
Well, it was the
story.
first. It's sort of like the Mandalorian of the cartoons because it was the first thing they made after Disney bought them too. So it has all the shout outs. Like it has the what's his name is Chewbacca's original design, and like it has all these fun Easter eggs.
Rebels
that are like
yeah,
that's what I mean. Yeah. So that's why it's fun to watch.
And they do stuff where Lando shows up in an episode. I didn't care about Rebels until I read that Lando
by Billy D. Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm gonna have to watch Rebels now, and that got me.
And he's
got
great.
me into it. But so when we see Bo-Katan show up, who is played by Katie Sackhoff, who voiced the character in the cartoon,
Oh, that's
is also fun.
Yeah.
So she's still on a mission. It's funny when she says like you're a child of the Watch, because I don't think she says it in the episode, but I'm pretty sure she's referring to the Death Watch, which was that dissident group that was too extreme and they broke away from it. But they were an extremist group of Mandalorians that it now seems like they were going around gathering up foundlings and indoctrinating them to this extreme version of the Mandalorian.
Mandalorian's like a Nexium
Philosophy.
or something, right? That's what he's
it's
a
like
cult version of it.
Like a religion, then I guess.
Well, it's definitely a dogma because
Well, they're
they're
fundamentalists,
obviously not
basically,
even
right?
telling these foundlings that there's any other school of thought in Mandalore. Like when they take their helmets off, he's like, "Where did you get that armor? Take it off right now." And they're like, "Cool your shit, man. We're the
They're just orthodox, yeah, basically. That might be more fundamentalist than.
Yeah, fundamentalists is exactly what they are. It's like you don't even know what you're talking about. I'm a Mandalorian. You're just some dude." And it's a fun turnaround because when you first see this show and they're like, I never take my helmet off and that is the way, we're like, since when? Like, what is that? It's Mandalore as a creed. That's new because we saw.
Well, that
Clone
gets
Wars.
into more realistic kind of terms too. That gets more, sadly, it's like before we have Sith versus Jedi. It's like it's the same stuff, and it's like different religions and stuff against the same. This is like how more real world we have it, where it's like it's basically the same religion. It's just
I think it's kind of fun too, because the concept of what Mandalorians were like outside of the story also seemed to shift because they couldn't decide. Because originally, when Boba Fett was introduced, the Mandalorian idea hadn't been introduced. That was just supposed to be a shock trooper, which was like a super stormtrooper.
Right.
But the idea was the shock troopers fought the Jedis in the Clone Wars. That was their backstory. And so later on, when they're like, well, we don't really want to do the shock trooper thing, so let's just say this is this guy and this is Mandalorian. And somehow that got sort of amalgamated into like fan lore where people are like, well, the Mandalorians used to fight the Jedis. It's like, well, not really, but that's where that idea comes from, where that armor was supposed to be the shock troopers, and the shock troopers were supposed to be the ones who helped eradicate the Jedi, which is funny because that sort of became the archetype for the clone troopers in the Clone Wars, and they literally were the ones who went around and fought the Jedi and helped to eradicate the Jedi at the end of the Clone Wars.
And they were the clones of the guy that wore the armor in the original movies.
Yeah, so it's all tied in.
It was the father of Boba Fett.
But by then, there was a lot of confusing in the Legends stuff where they would start saying, well, actually, Mandalore is not a place. Mandalore is like people who follow this guy named the Great Mandalore or whatever, and he was this one warrior that had these followers of his philosophy, and you're like, that sounds dumb. I was pretty sure Mandalore's a planet. And then when they did Clone Wars, they're like, yeah, Mandalore is a planet. And then this Mandalore character was a prominent figure on Mandalore, which, you know, that's a sci-fi thing. It's like, so your name is Mandalore?
Well, they named the planet after him because he's so awesome.
Is that what happened, or did you just decide, like, you just
like
rebranded yourself?
One day they're going to name our planet Sean. It's just a matter of time.
It could happen though. You could have
not after this Sean.
Yeah,
like,
after a Sean.
Yeah, just sooner or later, someone.
Sean Puffy Combs.
You know, you got a million monkeys and a million typewriters. I mean, I'm just saying, sooner or later. But so this is a kind of fun in-story way to explain some of that confusion because, well, it's sort of like the Jedis. What the Mandalorians are to outsiders is different based on which Mandalorians they meet. Sometimes you meet a Mandalorian and they're of that creed where they never take the helmet off and there's a lot of mystique to it. Sometimes you meet a guy like Boba Fett that doesn't seem to be a proper Mandalorian of any flavor.
And they kind of explain away while they're not involved with the Empire and the Rebellion. The Rebels, because they're always just in their own crap, like having their own civil wars and stuff going on. Like, yeah,
during the Rebels period, the strong contingent of the Mandalorians were actually with the Empire.
Yeah,
in the Empire, they had to flip them back. So it's interesting to see that go back and forth. And now you have these different factions like the Death Watch that are going out like, no, we need to go preserve what we think the real Mandalore is. And we now find out in this episode that the idea that you can't go back to that planet is just propaganda that's being spread. Like, there is a Mandalore. There may be a fully functioning Mandalorian race and or government on that planet for all we know. But these guys are just out.
Do you think that
on the rim somewhere and don't know
this is going to open up a path for them allowing the actor to actually act without the helmet on?
Yeah, I was literally just about to say that. I think it's also a convenient way to have actually, like, we pay a lot of these successful actor on this call sheet, and he's.
I don't remember if it's on our Mandalorian episodes or on the other show we did, but I've been reading a month or two ago about problems on the set of season 2 because the actor, what's his name?
Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, not being happy about not.
Sounds like a Star Wars name, by the way, Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, like he was unhappy. Rumored to be unhappy about not being able to take off the helmet.
Actually, that's the big hook going into season 3. Is that I bet that in this season they take it off,
and it's
like next season he doesn't have it. That's like
because he's so
great. It works
great
in the story too because you have this guy who's raised on this sort of rigid belief system, and he just believes it because he was fully indoctrinated from a young age. He was literally found as a child, and they just taught him this way. And they clearly, like, deliberately omitted all this other part of that his culture's history. That they cherry picked a part of that culture and fed it to him as if it were the totality of that culture. And now he meets people like, dude, you know what you're talking about. I'm from there.
Yeah,
like,
and I think that's
guy.
And I think that's the intention. That's Larry Brooks. I thought that's the first thing I thought when they go, when I do like that, the reaction. He's like, what are you doing? You're not Mandalorians. Where'd you steal that armor from? And he's like, no, we're this. Then he's like, huh? He's just like that reaction.
Hold
goes,
up.
Hold on. He's like, wait a second. He takes off. He's like, wait.
Yeah.
I don't have to wear this thing. You know how hard it is to breathe in here?
Yeah, he takes it all off. He's like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have to take my meals in the bathroom from now on for the rest of my life. Like, no. You know how many bars I've gone to and ordered nothing? You know how well that goes over?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah,
Did that was more like nothing.
And you just like, give me a bowl of chowder so I can
They
look
should
at
give
it.
him like a straw he could slip up under it somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That would be the best. This is the way. And it's just like a weird, crazy straw thing up under.
They say that too, though, right? Like they say that to him, don't they?
Well,
They
she
say
says
this
it almost
way.
like sarcastically at the end, but also like
So
in
that
a friendship
predates.
way.
That's more of a Mandalorian thing than not just the Death's Watch or whatever.
Well, Bo-Katan
I mean,
was part of the Death Watch at one point, so she's got to
Oh.
be familiar with those ancient
I mean,
traditions.
the way I read it, it's like Han Solo saying, "May the Force be with you" before he leaves, right at the end, before the last battle. Like he don't believe in it, but it's like a common thing among those. You know, she knows about it.
Yeah.
And it is sort of a respectful thing. It's not just to be mean, but it is funny because they're different. Like it's a weird sort of drama because like we're just going to take this whole ship. And he's like, that's not the deal we made. What do you care? It's no extra work.
Well,
The only
she's
thing you should
asking.
be mad about
I
is
think
that we
she's
announced
asking
that
him to do
intention.
it.
But so
By
what?
assumption, because she didn't tell him what he wanted to know.
Right.
It's like, so where's the Jedi? It's like, you want to know where the Jedi is? You're going to take the rest of the ship. That's not the deal we made. That's what I.
That's a conversation that should have happened instead of her announcing to the bridge crew, which almost ruined everything. It's like, communicate to your own people as well as you communicate to the bad guys, because you almost killed all of us.
Yeah, that was
Just
pretty
to act like a badass.
intense. That
She always
that
plays the
ship
exact
captain
same
was
type of character.
pretty
pretty
good.
hardcore.
She's the same. Like
Okay.
just literally just like
Just like,
Like, whoa, dude!
like, God,
How much are they paying you, man?
long live the Empire.
Yeah, talk about zealots. That's pretty impressive.
This is why the Empire is not going to last, guys. You guys just
I enjoyed
keep killing
seeing this.
everybody.
I mean, I know we've seen it before the end of the first season when they came in, but if there's something I like the idea, just the notions, I like seeing the Empire for these pockets still behaving as the Empire. I mean, like, what are they going to
the
do?
remnants.
Like,
'Cause this is
yeah,
in the new canon. This is leading up to not. Too
They're almost like
far
a
away, but
corporation
This is
now.
before the Battle of Jakku. Like
Is
not
it?
too long. I'm trying to think of how many years after
I thought this
Jedi
was
the Battle
after.
of Jakku was supposed to happen. No, because I mean, at least according to the lore that they were putting out, those last remnants of the Empire were pretty much wiped out. The Battle of Jakku was the end. It's like all Operation
But,
Cinder and
I
all that
mean-
nonsense came together, and between that battle and the fact that the Emperor had just programmed the Empire to incinerate
Well,
itself,
it's two
like, they were
things
gone at that
interesting
point.
because it feels like they're just like a company now. You know, it's just a corporation. Like, I work for the Empire. This is like we're not a government anymore. But also,
Well, it's definitely
sadly,
a brand that they sell people.
yeah, but it's also, I mean, not to get into it, but it's also, given this week in time in our history when we're recording this, it also seems very plausible that a fallen empire can have as just many followers go, yeah, we're still here. Don't worry about
Especially the role that propaganda plays in that.
Right.
Like, yeah, that's a setback, but we're fine. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they want you to think that, but they're the ones who are lying.
It
We're
makes
fine.
perfect sense.
it.
that
Yeah, these
we're
radical
Death Star
resistance members.
and
yeah.
they kill the emperor doesn't mean that a galactic empire is going to stop existing. That everyone's going to quit. You know, of course, there's factions all over
was
the
rigged.
place.
Yeah, it was rigged.
I'm just saying, there. You know, it makes perfect sense that there's entire armies of stormtroopers out there that
Well,
still.
Especially
Think about
that,
it.
because I mean, if each of them has
In
like
true
1,000
historical
troops,
terms, think of it in terms of the dismantling of the Soviet Union. Now, all of a sudden, you have all these
Yeah, I got these
massive weapons
satellite
of war,
states out there.
and there is no centralized government.
Well, that's what I'd like to see more of. That'd be cool to see more as we go further in this stuff, like real
Where
these satellite
warlords-
states, or are they like customized to their own self? You know, they kind of Mad Maxed a little bit to their own. Greg's coming in. Sorry. My hand goes, and Greg's here.
Talk to the hand. Hey, Greg.
Hey, sorry, I'm late.
And that's it for today's episode of The Mandalorian.
Nice talking to you guys.
Hey, I got something to say. I got a few things to say.
We were just talking about the Mandalorians they run into and the different factions and how the Empire still has some active factions.
The remnants of the Empire, yeah.
That's where we hadn't gotten into the actual fight on the ship yet. We hadn't really talked about that.
So you guys are already talking. The show is in progress.
Show is happening. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Put your pants on. This is happening.
Sorry.
Jump on the ship. Get your boosters ready. Come catch up.
It's been one of those days. All right.
Yeah, well, we don't see as much of that in Mandalorian, but it makes sense because I would think that those factions would be somewhat regional, and all the Imperial remnants that we see are kind of affiliated with each other under Moff Gideon.
Gideon shows up with like a squad of people. I mean, they apparently still have forces, not just stragglers.
Yeah, you kind of feel like what's his name? Herzog is his could have been a faction that got consolidated by Moff Gideon,
That's what it feels like got absorbed by a more charismatic leader. Like the idea that Gideon has been gathering all these little factions together.
Herzog to me was a lot scarier than the Gideon character. I think he should have been that character. He should have been the big baddie.
I like Giancarlo Esposito and the way that he acts because
he can be really scary,
cool, sinister, sort of in a very off-putting way because he's not overtly sinister, but just the way that he says things, it's going down when it's coming from him. Like you feel like you know where you stand.
I haven't seen enough out of him in this character yet to really know what he's about, but he does look a little tiny or something.
He's a tiny man.
He's not a big dude for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he didn't get his position from arm wrestling competitions, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch that show that he was in where the power goes out?
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad.
No, there was a show where the entire electric power goes out all over the world. He was
Bill Scallion in it.
He was a big character in that show. That's the first time I ever saw him.
Revolution was the name of it.
Yeah. Like he's the guy that gets his face removed on
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, yeah. That was a cool.
That's a whole different thing. But I mean, he played a big bad guy in that. That's the first.
But he even did that on The Boys this year. He took on Homelander in that one scene. That's a great scene. He's great
because he can be terrifying in a weird, casual sort of way.
Well, just
that was a show that had Dill Scallion as the hero in it. Remember the main guy in that?
Yeah.
That's right.
He's not premise. Like a physically imposing dude, but he's good at being serious looking. That's kind of what you want, like a
the guy. What made him awesome in Breaking Bad, and they try to leverage that slightly in this, is in Breaking Bad he literally was just the manager of a fast food chicken joint, and he could not look less threatening. But then you find out that he's terrifying, and then obviously they're not going that full way here because he is a Moff. He is a person in a position of power, but he doesn't talk like Werner Herzog. Like, I know where to stand with you. You're always overtly terrifying. So I think I got your number.
I still think Herzog is scarier, though.
He definitely is. But
I didn't like so that.
Much you can
I
do
want
with that.
what you have, or you have what I want, or whatever. It's like, that's kind of a. Anywho, so he's got the dark saber. Greg, we were talking about the dark saber and what it is.
Yeah.
I like the idea that this could be hinting that the reason he has the darksaber is because Mandalore is sort of a focus of what's going on. This effort for them to sort of rebuild the Empire is going to culminate.
Well, that was
that effort to
cool.
reclaim Mandalore.
I was glad to see a character from Mandalore, Bo-Katan show up, because I'm hoping that like that Mandalore and these Mandalorians that we've been following will kind of come together to become a more
unified Mandalorian church.
A more unified Mandalorian. Well, not a church, but a people. Because to me, it bothers me that it's a church. I don't like that.
Get the church part out. That's what's screwing us up.
Yeah. So, Yeah, so maybe he'll get to take his helmet off, in season 3 or something.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, that's my prediction. I think it'll be out by the end of the season. I think that's what it's building to.
The idea that they could be, especially since the central point of the show. I know that the plot that they've taken on is his relationship with the child, but the central point of the show was that we're going to follow a Mandalorian, and then they specifically introduced a character who is following a creed that we're not familiar with in terms of the Mandalorians that we've seen thus far, and bringing him around to see.
It's the first bit of this is what I complained about last week, is that we don't know what the plot of the season is. It's like, but this is the first time in the first moment we see where the season could be heading, which is with these people, with her, and with the whole thing kind of culminate, with and Moff Gideon coming together. Yeah,
he could actually start helping them reclaim Mandalore and actually become part of the real Mandalorian culture, or the core Mandalorian culture that he was sort of indoctrinated against by this sort of offshoot faction.
If it follows the formula from last season, we're going to meet a person each episode, and then he's going to have to go round them up again. So we're going to go get the frog lady again. We're going to go.
I would love to see Cobb Vanth come back and have that armor to help him, to help them reclaim Mandalore.
Well, I guess we could skip to the big spoiler at the end, the big reveal. He finishes, they attack the ship, they take the cockpit, they pull up at the last minute, so the Mandalorians get what they want. He flies off, but she tells them Ahsoka Tano or whatever
Ahsoka Tano
is Ahsoka Tano is here.
Even though Ahsoka apparently is already tracking him, because we see her earlier.
That's not Ahsoka. That's the other Mandalorian, the third.
The one in the robe? Was hiding.
That's the girl that hangs out with Boca Raton.
Oh,
that was the other Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Boca Raton.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like Ahsoka hiding. Okay.
What I was getting disappointed, because when I saw the thumbnail for that episode, I thought, oh, this is going to be Ahsoka Tano, because that's what I thought from that thumbnail. And then when I see her in the show, I'm like, oh, that's not her.
Her friend Mar-a-Lago.
Mar-a-Lago and Boca Raton.
These names, I can't. I'm not
this
a great.
Is the way.
I'm not good with it.
Yeah. Florida's the way.
Well, why not? You could do a lot worse in sci-fi than to just give everybody Florida names.
Yeah.
Tampa.
Tallahassee.
That'd be a good Star Wars name.
Yeah. Orlando. There you go.
I am the goddess Ocala.
Exactly.
Destin. Yeah.
That is hilarious.
Daytona. There you go. My name's
Orlando Calrissian.
Daytona's really fast.
Yeah.
So the next episode, I guarantee you, he's going to go to that planet. He's going to say, "I'm looking for Ahsoka Tano," and they're like, "Okay, I'll tell you, but first,
you've got to help me."
You have to give me 3 chickens.
Son of a bitch.
French quest.
I'm going to give you a chicken, a hound, and a bag.
They already are.
You have to transport them across this river.
You have to mine this much stuff for me.
The first mission this year was he had to go kill a monster quest. This was a escort mission, right? He had to go escort her with protecting her. And this was a robbery. This is like a heist. So there's going to be, go fetch me 12 bushels of pine wood.
Maybe he'll have to kidnap somebody or something, rescue a princess or something.
Well, I hope it's interesting, because I'd like to think Ahsoka Tano's up to something cool. So I would hope that when he does find her, I don't want it to be the episode is like he meets somebody and then they say, well, you have to do this before I tell you where to find Ahsoka Tano. It's like, God damn it.
And it's weird how
there's straight line to anything.
There's better than 50% chance that's what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's like, even though I was given her name and her address, I still can't find her without going through some weirdo that tells me to do something strange.
Like a butler's going to open the door to her house and go, "I will let you in, but first you must go get me a pizza.
Answer my 3 riddles." Like, God damn it.
Well, between these Mandalorians and then Ahsoka next week, we better get mention of Sabine, right?
Well,
they didn't mention that she was casted or anything, but it's like she's right in the middle of that Venn diagram.
Well, she could be off in the unknown regions.
For a minute, I thought it was her until I saw the paint on the helmet.
Right.
Yeah, it's really fun. Apparently, some people are upset on the internet because they thought that the female armor is overly endowed. For the
Melissa
Lady
saw that.
Mandalorians.
She pointed
And I
that out.
Really?
I didn't notice that at all.
I didn't really, but she pointed out, she's like, it's funny how they have, their armor has shapes in it that the boys don't.
Well,
So-
their bodies have shapes that the boys don't have.
Yeah, but what girl do you know that could put on armor and it would require like an additional, most girls don't need that. That's what I'm saying. That's like saying some Mandalorian guys need a special pant area
Maybe
with,
they do.
The cockpit is what it's
Extra-
called, and we all need it.
extra space. I mean, yours might be, small, but some of us need a larger.
That's
armor.
what the
Not-
first
not
Some of us
episode.
come with the rocket
Not
firing
everybody.
action, and some of us don't, I guess.
Not everybody keeps their rocket on their back, if you know what I'm saying.
That should have been that should have been the first piece they forged last season. That first episode, where first he gives them just that shoulder pad. It's like, you'll need the cod piece.
He just holds it up and it's shining and it's like huge and shiny. He puts it on and he's got nothing else on. He's naked.
Just
and
rolling
ripped.
it.
Puts it on.
Yeah.
This is the way.
With
Strap.
the helmet on still, yeah.
No one has ever seen me take this off. That would be the way.
Oh my god!
Now we're getting into Spaceball. Oh, scared.
But I'm going to put money down, like a quarter, because I don't have any money. That will happen. And I'm also wondering if when he does run into her, she's going to say, "I've been watching you," or "I've been watching your career." I knew you were coming, or something like that.
I hope
Probably
not,
will say
because
so.
I would like to see her be surprised that he has a Baby Yoda on him.
Because she knows what it is.
Yeah, she'd be like, "What the shit?"
But like,
She's
I don't
actually met
understand
Yoda.
still. And of course, I'm sure they have a reason behind everything they're doing. And it's not just like the sequels where they're just making crap up. But I understand the Mandalorian tie-in now. He's got the dark saber. They want it back. Maybe he's trying to take over Mandalore. And what's the child have to do with it? Everyone's after the child, but we don't have any clue anything about this child. Where did it
I've
even
been
come
dying
from?
for Project Harvester to have something to do with this shit since they started
Yeah.
making these new movies, and this
That's the
may
stuff on
still
Jakku,
be a
right?
thing because this.
So
was
what is Project Harvester for those of us that don't watch cartoons?
there was a storyline.
I'm just being
Movies and comic books.
I'm just-
I'm
I'm just being funny.
only the movies count.
Yeah, for those who have been with women, what's that part of the story like? But it wasn't called this, but there was a storyline in Clone Wars where Palpatine was specifically kidnapping Force-sensitive children for something and taking them to Mustafar. And the Jedis put the kibosh on that. And then in Rebels, they never said that this was connected to the same thing, but they were doing the same thing. This is what the Inquisitors were doing in Rebels. They were like the faction of Palpatine's, whatever, these bad guys that Palpatine had partly trained in Sith, and they were his enforcers, and they were running around kidnapping Force-sensitive children, and that was called Project Harvester.
Are they trying to make Sith out of them?
Nobody knew because at that time they were taking children and putting them in the academy that was run by General Hux's dad. But the ones that started showing real force ability, they would separate those out and give them to the Inquisitors. And the Inquisitors were also going around looking for force-sensitive children and just abducting them. And they never really fully explained what the end game of that was, like what that was for. Because then Ahsoka Tano is the one who put an end to that in Rebels. So
Well, but
that
now
would
they
be a
can do
really
anything
fun
there.
connection if Ahsoka Tano is still investigating some remnant of that. Because I used to say, wouldn't it be fun if Rey were somehow involved in that
Right.
kind of stuff?
But
Which
now,
would make
but that,
sense, I guess.
But also it could be involved because now
Made
that
more
it actually
sense in the
is
direction.
canon. But now that it is canon, at that time there's a massive cloning the Emperor operation going on. Then any of that stuff could be possible now. Like,
Well, yeah, that's what I would think would be the logical, ending to that project would be is that they, he's taking them and eventually killing them and stealing their force power somehow or another.
Yeah, or trying to harness where comes from. Because I think in the Clone Wars,
They're midi-chlorians.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
he's sucking all their midi-chlorians out. I don't know.
where they were taking
He's juicing on midi-chlorians.
Yeah, it's like steroids
Yeah.
right in the rear end,
this isn't canon, but in the old
McGuire style.
canon, there used to be a harvester device, a force harvester that could do exactly that.
Like the stupid thing in the movie version of Dark Tower, basically, right? Remember?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Which didn't make any
Or
sense
like
at all.
the Dark
Yeah.
Crystal, where they were just sucking their soul into a jar and drinking it and cackling like
yeah.
assholes. Just it's very traumatizing, that Netflix show.
Maybe everything about that's disturbing. Dark Crystal's very disturbing.
It really is. But so the idea would be that they're at least hinting that this Baby Yoda could be a clone of some kind.
A
But I'd like to see it.
of Yoda.
I hope not. But
I mean, if it's going to be a clone, why not
Looks
be a
just
clone
like
of-
him. Yeah.
I mean, it
Yoda.
could be. But I
I mean,
would
it
hope
is
not.
dumb in our minds.
But a bunch of Palpatine
I would
in a
rather
jar is
just be
very
another
dumb too.
member of his species. Why does it have to be a clone?
Well, this goes back to something that I was saying in the last episode, where they're saying in the very first episode when they find him, they're like, I thought he was supposed to be 50 years old. And they're like, well, maybe some races age differently. No races of baby for 50 years. Don't feed me that. I don't care if they live to be 900
Well-
and we find out that they're an infant.
That doesn't. That's
50
entirely
years.
possible, man.
But
Eat
Animals
trees?
live.
Okay.
The childhood of animals is like 1 year, and ours is like 20 before we're fully developed. So
True.
it makes sense. A more advanced creature, especially like a Yoda, there's no reason why it can't have a
frogs are
super
not that
long.
advanced.
All he has brains just developed in this entire time.
Well,
We're gonna
the
eat
thing
frogs in the future when we evolve. You just watch.
is, when we evolve into toad people.
No, but
But the
I kind of
argument
agree with
that
that,
I
Sean.
make
But-
is that the reason I think I'm right on this for sure is because in this season they're going out of their way to make Baby Yoda more developed than he was last season. He's growing now. Like he's already kind of a toddler. He walks a little bit. He's starting to vocalize. Like sounds like he's about to start talking. He's a little bit bigger. Like his growth rate since last season seems to be more consistent with a baby growing up into a child. Like,
Well,
so
and-
I
and
kind of think
also
that this kid
just-
was like on ice or something. If he's 50 years old, they had him
50's
in
the
the
new
jar
sir.
next
Yeah,
to the
whatever
jar of
was-
Snopes.
I think that was just legend. Like this, legend is these people because they do live to be 900. Like it's it's not a big leap in logic to think that they would be a kid for 50 years, but us humans,
If he had
watching
been
The
a kid for
Mandalorian,
50
have to see a
years.
progression, and a 50-year childhood would not. It would go too slow for us really to enjoy it, to watch it.
If he's been around for 50 years and he was around for the prequel, not the prequels, maybe the prequels. Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Because this is
something
8
like
years
that.
after the. So he'd have been around for the whole prequels. And when you do that, Andrew, be careful. You're touching your
Sorry,
mind. It's making
sorry.
a lot of. That's all right. Just letting you know.
Well, Baby Yoda's roughly
no
the
one's
age,
been after
same
him
age as
until
Anakin
just now.
Skywalker, is what they say.
So why is nobody after him until just now?
Well, they had him
know what I mean?
until just now.
And he escaped or was stolen or something? Because wasn't he in?
Yeah, I think that had to be the case
Who
because
had him when? I need to rewatch the first episode again.
he rescued
Where
him
was
from
he
like
when
those
Mandalorian
guys on
got him?
Nick Nolte's planet,
Yeah.
But who were they?
and nobody
like-
explained how he got him. But it seemed more like they had just kidnapped him from that place because the doctor guy who was with Werner Herzog seemed to be the one to know where he came from, and he was the one wearing the Camino.
Oh, and he was the one that's sort of distraught. So it felt like they took him away from them, and then they're getting
So
it back.
he was like maybe
If he'd been a
part of
baby for
some
50 years,
experiment.
he would have died already because of all the trouble he gets into. He wouldn't have
Yeah,
made it.
that's what I mean. That kid was frozen. There is no way that you've been doing this for 50 years.
He was a tadpole for 49 years. Pops it, grows out, fills
That's
out.
true, man. We don't know how long they go in tadpole phase.
And if you think about it, it's only been a couple months. Maybe he's just going to explode into an adult.
That's
by
what I
the end of the
mean.
year.
I think that he seems to be growing like noticeably now. So I don't think he was in infancy actively for 50 years. But
That'll
if he
be fun
was
to
like
see.
a clone on some Mustafar lab, like
I
some
think he's
remnant
super
of
cute.
Harvester.
He's not going to get that much bigger, so let's not get carried away.
Yeah, I don't mean size-wise.
Full grown, like he's like a foot higher. Full
I mean,
grown.
he's super cute now, but I don't want to see 5 seasons of him just. I hope he gets a little more advanced, and
And I think he will. Like I said,
That'll make it more
seems more
interesting.
developed to me now than he
He'll be
was
like-
last season.
He'll be like teenage Groot next season.
Yeah, I'm green.
Well, that's what I'm worried about. Yeah, like, you could be seeing some stories where he
Great.
makes some questionable decisions. Like people are worried about the eggs. It's like he's a baby with force powers. It could be a lot worse.
he hasn't used them at all this season.
No,
Yeah.
they're pretty smart.
Anyone else
They don't.
notice that?
They
He got his revenge this week though when the octopus got about to kill him on his face.
I would like to talk about that. Not just the octopus, but I like the way they do this in Star Wars. The mix of new technology and old technology, like the Quarren have this boat, but it's got like a repulsor or something on it, whatever you want to call it.
That was cool.
Star Wars engine, but they still have these old-fashioned ropes and hooks and nets and
Well,
stuff.
and
Like
the trailer is
nothing more
fun.
advanced for the fishing.
It was funny to see the trailer of this show before the season and go, a boat? That's something we've never seen in Star Wars. Like, it's like in Solo, it's like, why are they using a train? They just have they could just float.
Yeah.
But this is like, why do they need a boat? But this is the only time it made sense because, like, it's ships in the water. That's why he has to take the boat out in the middle of. They didn't go that far, though. You could still see the shore from there.
well, they figured they only had to take him like out of eye line of anybody on the shore. It's like, we're not waste too much gas. We're just going to kill this.
Hey,
guy
you want to
coming
see us
out.
down here? You want to eat something? Hey, come here.
I love that they fixed the ship up with just nets and ropes and
That was weird too. That's what I was going to talk about when we see the thing. It's like goes in there and it's just ropes everywhere.
weird
Like, why did
Pee-wee's
they do that?
Playhouse kind of
That's
pulleys
part
and
of
nonsense.
that's part of the repair. I thought they just had it in there and just didn't clean up.
That's my
weird.
favorite part. I
It
mean,
actually
Well,
held
but
together
he
with
said-
rope.
He said he could make it fly. He didn't say he could fix it.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel for both of them. He's like, I gave you 1,000 credits.
Yes, and I thank you.
And he's like, I pulled it out of the water, dude. And it's so like,
Well, also, why was I supposed to spend the whole 1,000 credits on parts? How
yeah.
about my labor? Had to pull this thing out of the ocean. And
It
make
was
the
silly to
spaceship.
see nets though inside the cockpit. I was like, what are those doing? Yeah, so
It
that's like
didn't make any
it looked like
sense.
the Red Lobster decoration.
Yeah, it does. That's what I was thinking.
Long
It's like a
John
theme,
Silver.
a theme
Yeah.
Come on,
restaurant.
Calamari. He's like, you know what this thing can
Yeah.
use? You can use some more net.
Here's some more hush puppies.
He's going to be flying and goes, I'm going to pull this stupid net down and the whole cockpit will fall apart.
Well,
It's a trap.
It just blows out and decompresses in the middle of outer space immediately. I like that because, like, if you read the old Han Solo novels, the Brian Daley ones, like there was, I think it was the second one where he's trying to get the ship fixed and he has to get hydros installed. That's the only thing he can afford, and it's this weird sort of water-based coolant system for the ship, and it's
Well, that is a cool
just
world,
water
yeah.
running through everything,
Flu-
these tubes, and it's just
fluidics.
a big mess.
They call them fluidics. Wasn't that what it was called?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I remember that 30 years later, but I do.
yeah, I do. I
And
do
I
like
just
the
thought that was a fun
nautical-
idea because it shows you they're doing the same thing in Mandalorian, where it shows you that we're just trying to keep in the air, and it's not easy on a budget.
Well, what you're seeing in Mandalorian as opposed to, I mean, you also in Star Wars bounces back in the movies, but like we've seen it. What's a water world we've seen? I guess where the
Kamino.
cloning is, yeah. But that's like upscale. We haven't seen the working man's like wharf district and like
Yeah,
where
exactly.
like the cast of Perfect Storm is. Like
If
they can
you,
recreate that Perfect Storm
Yeah,
with that
the
bar. and stuff.
Gloucesterman.
Yeah,
If you
Star
watch
Wars
the
universe.
Marvel Age Star Wars show, you'll know we have visited a water planet.
I'm talking about in the
A
ships.
Duba
Okay.
3.
Maybe
No, but-
maybe Trask is in the Drexel system. Have we checked? They have a lot of similar nettings.
It is cool that, I mean, this kind of goes to show how wide the galaxy is because there's more than one way to fix a ship. Like if you end up getting your ship fixed at a Mon Calamari spaceport, it's going to look a certain way.
Yeah,
know,
you
and,
use like weird organics.
Yeah, so if you go somewhere else, if you go to Camino or something,
He always makes me nervous.
Hmm.
Yeah, even the first season when he got the what's his name to help him fix his ship there, it's like is there a way to like pressurize this on the surface and test this? Because he just goes, taking off, let's go. And he just always takes off immediately.
Star Wars,
to the
man.
vacuum of
Shut the door.
Yeah.
Nothing. We never see any space accident happen in Star Wars.
No.
We've never seen.
Yeah.
We've seen ships break straight
None of
up.
our
break down
O2
in
cannons
space.
got like stirred and explode or something. Like
Yeah, but we never see we never see anyone sucked out unless it was by. I guess you do in the new ones. They get sucked out when they get shot, but we never see that. So I guess
they
they
have
just
force
assume.
fields. They have force fields all the time. Yeah.
You look at real space travel and how dangerous it is, and how any tiny little thing could just be catastrophic. But in this, they're like, "Oh, it's fixed, good enough. Duct tape will work. Let's go."
That's why I wouldn't have
It'll
taken
hold.
that Baby Yoda up on that SpaceX flight, man.
I wouldn't even drive a car that looked like that ship looks right now.
Once they get
Couldn't
to
legally drive a car that looked like that.
Yeah, once it gets to be too sci-fi, like that's. Have you watched the late? This is not. I'm not spoiled. Have you seen the latest Discovery episode, Sean?
Yeah.
Has anybody where they find people?
I haven't, but I heard it's getting weird. Like the ship is.
Well, but I'm not even going to say what the context is, but there's a part where they say they just find future ships. Let's put it that way. And they're like, some of these are organic. He's like, some of these are just made out of holographic constructs. The whole is.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? The
Oh,
hell?
That sounds like a
crap.
terrible idea.
Yeah, I was like, what? The power goes out, dude. I was like,
This drives me nuts because they do this in Star Trek 2 where he's like, look at this window. And she's like, there's no glass in the window. It's like, yeah, it's just a force field. It's like, that's stupid. You have transparent aluminum. You're going to trust that you will never, like, we lose power all the
hard
time.
copy backup. Yeah, I know. I lost it for a week. So yeah, we lose it all the time.
Why would you have only a force field here when you have transparent aluminum or better at this point in your technology?
There's a lot of examples of organic ships, and I can think of
socialist ship construction
in
man.
different shows. Not Star
Exactly.
Wars.
Force fields are cheaper.
Yeah,
I always thought
Well, I
that was
used
a
to
neat
say-
idea.
That Star Trek was an anti-socialism sort of manifesto because like, here's this holodeck, everything's free, we don't have money, have fun in the holodeck that we provide you for free, and they lose like 4 crewmen a year from being murdered in the holodeck by the program going awry. And then we go to Deep Space Nine and he has a holosuite in the bar, and never one episode of Deep Space Nine about that failing. Why? Because they pay for the holosuite. It's Ferengis. It's like, we have quality control on Ferengi because
They only
we got
kill
a
the
profit motive.
yeah.
Maybe just don't go in a holodeck situations that involve murders.
Well, they don't all do it. Like,
How do they get murdered?
I don't know. There's always some contrivance.
The fail saves.
They do that on the Orville too.
The fail saves always get turned off.
Yeah.
The holodeck makes no sense. Let's just be honest about it.
Yeah, as science.
Well,
yeah,
the holodeck makes no
garbage.
sense as that. It's the same way that Black Mirror episode where they're having sex inside the fighting game. The reason that none of that makes sense is like, why is anybody in the world doing anything else but this game?
Well,
Like, why
That's
aren't you doing the
Westworld. Like,
holodeck
how
all
did
the
you
time?
discover this
It's like-
aspect? This would be the only thing
all
that
you would do?
use this for.
It's like, why
all
are there
the time.
people? Yeah, why are there people walking the streets when they would just be at home doing this all the time? That doesn't make any sense.
That's what they did in Westworld.
Player
They're like,
One.
here's this Matrix
Yeah, exactly.
our simulation that we created of the entire world so that we could test out Westworld's like, why isn't this Westworld? What do you mean? Why did you build
So stupid.
robots? Wait a minute. There's like a fully realistic VR simulation of anything I want, and you built a robot cowboy?
Yes, to test the robots though. I was like, don't
To
worry
test
about the
AI
robots.
for the
Don't worry
robots.
about the robot.
Guys,
Because of this, you can turn the power off and everything's a hunky
for
dory.
real.
But at least that's robots. How in the actual holodeck do things kill you? Aren't they just illusions?
Well, usually it ends up being that, like on some shows, it's like where somebody comes in and kills them and gets disguised by the holodeck.
Well,
and stuff
but
like
it can. They have explained that if you remove the safety protocols in the holodeck, the holograms can kill you because it uses it's a combination of manipulated photons,
Nerd alert.
yeah, and the technology that they use for the replicators. So they actually do replicate actual material in the holodeck, but within
the people in there
holographic
they talk to
matrix,
are
they can
real.
dematerialize it the same
Yeah,
way.
you can drink real
physical.
drinks and eat real food in there.
Yeah.
That is incredibly creepy that you're talking to a person in the holodeck and they actually create that person.
My
That's
favorite joke
creepy.
in Lower Decks is like there's a scene in Lower Decks where they're talking about one of the crappiest jobs.
Oh my
and they're
God.
talking about how he had to clean out, and they're talking about how they made him clean out
God.
the biofilters in the holodeck.
Great.
And I'm like, yeah, because you know Because
They
that's
actually
because
remember they
the
did that in
Barclays
that-
are at work in that holodeck.
Imagine mopping that place for real.
That's what I mean.
Ugh.
There was one episode where one dude created like simulations of ladies on the ship. So that
I
he could
remember
sex
that.
with them, and everyone was aghast. Again, it was like, I can't believe you do this. Like, I can't believe I'm the only one who thought of this.
Yeah.
Like,
Like-
these files were just in the computer. I can make.
That's what I'm thinking. Computer can just do that. You just ask for like, I want Counselor Troy, but I want her dressed like this, and it's like, okay, I've got that file.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
There are
weird.
no ethical
No
protocols.
one's monitoring this.
That's what Barkley was doing.
That's what I'm talking about. It was
Yeah.
Barkley who did it, and everyone was like, "Barkley,
Well,
you're
in,
sick." It's like, why wouldn't everyone do this?
On the in the Orville, they actually have an episode about that.
Or they find the phone. Yeah.
Where he has the girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the Geordie LaForge episode of the Orville, because
Mhm.
Geordie fell in love with a hologram girl too.
Man, we all would. It's completely believable, right?
Man, people
you're
are
in
falling
there.
in love with pillows. Yes, like
Yeah, in real world, people are
people
carrying
That's really
pillows
happening.
with them
You
on the
guys- you know what
subway.
I'm
married
talking
to
about,
sex
right?
dolls. Like,
Yeah,
of
I've seen
course.
pictures of them on the subway with their doll, their pillow.
If a holodeck existed, like a solid percentage of people would only be there.
Brooks
It
led
would
on
be
that. You
like
should just
Ready Player One.
I just want to see Sean go, no, like pillows, guys, right? People fall in love. Like, no.
Yeah, like
I
it's
don't know
totally
what
normal,
you're
right?
talking about.
Yeah.
Your pillows, man.
Yeah, I'm the only brony in the room.
Anyways, back to Mandalorian.
I don't think it's.
Yeah, man. Greg's
Look,
pretending to
have-
read that book. We're all just doing other things
He's
now.
checking it.
It doesn't
technical
have a
specs.
this book
Weird.
doesn't have a section on the holodeck. That's weird.
Oh my God, what an incomplete piece of crap. That's because they don't want you to recreate it. That stuff's classified.
Oh,
Damn
wait.
fake science book.
Yeah, have you checked your fake
Holographic-
clearance level?
Holographic environment simulators, page 156.
I want to live in a world where we have that technology because I think that's cool.
Sure.
Then
Yeah, it'd be
could
great.
be in Star Wars.
All right. Yes, Mandalorian.
I could explore the pyramids without having to worry about getting killed.
Have you seen that VR Egypt stuff that they put out? They do have some
I need
stuff
to
where
get
people go and they do
one of those.
360
I need to get a
VR
headset.
simulations of ancient sites like that, and it's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Even if you don't have a VR goggles, just looking at it on your phone like that is very cool and impressive. And then every now and then someone puts one out and you turn around and there's a killer clown behind you.
That
Oh,
man,
That's not cool.
that to me is the best use of VR to actually explore real places,
Yeah.
especially
that you would never
historically.
be able
kids.
to see.
Yeah, and you never
because
know.
we-
In the future, that place may be destroyed by natural disaster or war
Well,
or
there are a
something.
lot of projects like
And to
that,
actually be able to study it that way, like
Yeah, I mean, I'm still thinking. I mean, because that's sort of what I do for a living with the medical stuff. VR, we do psychological stuff, but I still think it's $1 billion idea, $2 billion. I mean, I'm sure there's companies working on parts of it, sort of like the Egypt stuff, but to really do that for schools in a really kind of solid way is such a good idea. Like to be able to sit in there and like, all right, class, now it's like Magic School Bus. That's what I call it. It's like, all right, now we're going to
Yeah.
go inside the bloodstream too. You know, you can be inside of anything. It can be just science. It could be science, history, all that stuff.
To bring it back to the Mandalorian, the technology that'll make that possible is exactly what they're using in the show.
Yeah.
That, like we were saying,
the
those
LED.
full size,
Yeah.
like full wall LEDs. It's like they already have like museum exhibits that are semi interactive that way. I saw a Van Gogh exhibit that was like that, where the whole wall was displaying the pictures.
Mhm.
And
How cool
it's
is that,
Amazing
man?
looking. Yeah.
I hope I live long enough to see some of this stuff.
Well, that stuff's already out there. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Just hearing-
Yeah. You just hope you live long enough to leave the house.
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. I hope I live to the end of this. So we're going to see Ahsoka Tano. What do you think, guys?
Super excited.
Are you? I'm a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
nervous that it's going
I
to be
love
lame.
Ahsoka Tano. I love Rosario Dawson. I think
Yeah, that's her. It's great. So it's going to be good, I think.
I'm worried they're going to do like she shows up in the last 5 minutes of the last episode. That's going to tick me
I think he's going there
I'm
now.
not worried
isn't he?
about that if they
Yeah.
hadn't gone ahead and name dropped her right here. Like they're not even being coy anymore. She says, "This is this lady," and go tell her like Bo-Katan sent you and all that. Like, so he's been put on a path.
And
Right.
so she's going to know what to do with Baby Yoda. I guess
Well,
that,
she's seen
the
Yoda
idea-
before, so she's going to know something.
better than
I know,
anybody.
but the idea is that they're going to find more Jedi to raise him or take care of him.
She's got to know. She knows where. I mean, all the Jedi. She knows where they are now. I mean, she knows where Luke is.
That's exactly gets back to exactly what I had said that before. Like, at some point, she probably might know at least of Luke. Like, she may not know Luke, but I would like to see someone reference, like, yeah, I know there's like a for real Jedi.
Everyone must know of Luke now. They destroyed the Empire. He killed the Emperor.
Killed the Emperor.
I mean,
and
you got to
Darth
know
Vader,
of him.
and he blew up the Death Star.
Luke Skywalker's a legend.
Famous.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd be a crap legend if no one's ever heard of you.
This has got the same problem, though, that we had mentioned earlier, or maybe I was just talking to Sean. I can't remember, but I didn't like Clone Wars, the cartoon, because we know how it ends. Like, you're watching Clone Wars, like, oh, these are the heroes, but we know they're going to murder the Jedi. So that's just already in the future. This is the same kind of weirdness where, oh, you got a Baby Yoda. I wonder what's going to happen. Well, we know that there are sequels, and there's no Baby Yoda in the sequels. So unless he's not important enough to be in the movies, something bad happens to him.
Well, what I like about Ahsoka Tano's story and a lot of the stuff that we saw in Clone Wars and Rebels is they're important in their own internal context. Like, it's a bubble story in that universe. Like, there are other things that shape that universe that this doesn't impact, but there's still, like, we don't know what the fate of Mandalore is. If the show becomes about the fate of Mandalore, then that's a whole cycle of story.
And honestly, the way they, I mean, whether you like them or don't, or like parts of them or don't, the way they did the last 3 movies, they're really, I mean, they're about the world, but they concern like a very small group of people. So they could have been anywhere during that time.
And a limited number of events.
Right.
They make it out in the context of that trilogy as being really earth-shattering, but it takes place, like you said, of a very short.
The first one's a week. The second one's a day or 2 days.
The rise of the Resistance in the First Order are kind of nothing. Like, they're kind of on the level of these Imperial remnants. Like,
and where they would be
fight an Imperial remnant.
They're like blowing up planets and stuff.
Yeah, so could these guys.
That's a pretty big deal.
Planets.
Yeah, but what does the Mandalorian guy have to do with that? He could be there the whole time.
No, Mandalorian is fine. It's the whole Jedi thing is the problem.
But Ahsoka doesn't turn up either, so we don't know what happens there in the future.
And that that bothers me too, because in the original movies, they're like, he is the last one. There are no other Jedi. That's what they tell us. But they know Ahsoka Tano's out there, and they must know that.
Well, she wasn't technically a Jedi, so that's why they say that.
That's really splitting hairs.
They sidestep
that is splitting hairs.
That's why
Luke wasn't even really a Jedi.
He didn't
Luke wasn't a Jedi until he faced his father. Remember?
Right. Yeah. And also, he's like self-determining.
This is what happens when you keep making prequels. When you make things like before, after, then another before, another after, you're boxing yourself in. Because you make some cool new character and you're like, oh, this guy's gonna be awesome. But it's like, but he's not around.
I don't.
And if you're the Mandalorian, it's cool because he has nothing to do with the Jedi.
And I would actually, to that same point, I wouldn't mind it if we found out that Ahsoka Tano doesn't know Luke. Even I think she would have to know of him, but she might not want anything to do with him. Like we were saying, she's not as down with the Jedi way, and she's probably not down with the idea of rebuilding the Jedi Order.
She's like Anakin's son.
Yeah, pass.
Barf.
Apple does not fall far from the tree, my friend.
I'm going to rebuild the Jedi Order and the Jedi Council.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Because that's why it's funny, all the stuff they've created inside. But go ahead.
I would say in the Ahsoka book that the book that's just revolves around her that came out a few years ago.
Yeah, I need to read that.
Yeah, she actually is actively like trying to discourage force sensitive kids and stuff that she comes across. Like she'll tell their parents and say, "Look,
don't go to
careful.
the Jedi.
Yeah, don't let them do this. Yeah, don't let them do this stuff. It's too dangerous."
They're dyslexic. That's what
they have ADHD and they need this medicine.
Just medicate them. Medicate them now.
Disciplines.
Well, I could see that being a really fun aspect to the story because she's so instrumental in stopping stuff like Project Harvester. Like, so she's seen firsthand like these different sides fighting over these kids to sort of bring them around to their way of thinking. Mm-hmm. So she knows, like, it would be an interesting point in the story if he were to bring that kid to her, say, I'm supposed to bring this kid back to the Jedi, and she's like, well, that's the last damn thing you want to do.
Right.
If you want to help that kid, you need to get him as far away from the Jedi as you possibly can. Take him somewhere where he can live his damn life.
Yeah, I want to get some more of that stuff. We got a little bit of it in, Last Jedi and other stuff, but we need some more, like, damning of the Jedi Order and the officially.
And she was there, like unlike
Right.
Luke, she was there. She saw how bad it got.
Right.
Oh,
She
this
was
is all
kicked out of the
sacrilege to me.
Jedi Order.
Oh God.
You know,
I mean, I'm from the first three movies, and the Jedi in the first three movies are not portrayed as bad. That's what I grew up with, and then I did like the prequels. I
there's
didn't
some
like
arguments
the way
to be made there. Like they'd lie
I
to
don't know.
Luke, and they try
Yeah,
to
they-
indoctrinate Luke, and they tell Luke that the only way he can become a Jedi is to
Right.
murder his own father.
Yeah, I don't think
they're
what they
not
do
straight
in the
up.
prequel stuff is like against how they act in the original three. Though.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
kinda
the weakest.
use it.
When he's like,
I've come
"Hey,
to
you
appreciate-
totally lied to me about my dad." Like, well, from my
Certain point of
like,
view. Point of view.
What the hell,
the-
man?
from the
That's
point of
alternative
view of
facts
the
right there.
liar,
That's what
it's
that is.
always
It's like-
fine. Yeah, it was absolutely necessary. It might as well have been true from a certain point of view.
And
Like,
and the
that's
way
what
they
a lie
alternative facts.
is. A lie is
Yeah,
a
that's what I
point of
mean.
view that
But-
obscures the truth.
Yeah, and I mean, so they're pretty cold heart. I mean, it's not like they don't like Luke, but he's like, well, he's gonna die. There's another one. Don't worry about it. There's like they're not worried at all.
No.
We got
about,
another
like,
hope.
I don't think that's
Well,
that's
and
not the
also,
interpretation
they-
I had from the movie.
And they kind of coerce him to doing it. I mean, Yoda could probably take Darth Vader, don't you think?
Oh, Yoda seemed pretty pitiful at the end there. Pretty.
I don't know. I mean, maybe, but just
I think he could.
there are a lot of ways you
good.
can make it to where Luke
it's
doesn't
like
have
3
to.
months away from dying, though. So it's
He had
like,
but why was he there for 20 years? It's like he had a pretty good fight with Palpatine. It's like you almost won. What do you mean? Now you're
Yeah,
retiring?
just to regroup
Yeah.
and come back.
Yeah, but again, man,
Should've lived in a
ignore the
stump in a swamp.
prequels. Just ignore the prequels, and you don't have that question because you don't know that any of that happened.
Well, I'm just saying that, I mean, I'm not trying to say they're all bad in the original trilogy, but I'm saying that even in the context of only those movies, the triumph of Luke is by breaking away from the things that Obi-Wan and Yoda tell him, and he goes his own path. That's
Well, I don't
why
think
he
Yoda
wins.
tells him to kill Vader. He says he must face him, which he
No.
does. He doesn't
Well,
say kill Vader.
But he backs up Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan says he has to kill him straight up because
Yeah, but Obi-Wan,
I can't do it.
we
I
know-
can't. Yeah, but Yoda is involved in the. I guess Yoda has died and he's not in that conversation. But still, what Luke is left with is this idea that he's.
And we know
supposed to kill
Obi-Wan
Vader.
doesn't know because he says he tried to train him as good as Yoda and failed. So we know that, Obi-Wan's not the best.
yeah. Yeah,
But
that's
Yoda-
what we're saying.
Yeah,
Well,
but
we can
Yoda
leave-
never
We
leads
can
him to
exonerate
evil.
Yoda a little bit here, but either way, he's out of the picture, and Luke is left with the idea that in order to become a Jedi, he's supposed to kill Vader. That's
But you could
basically
also
what
order.
Obi-Wan leaves
You could also argue.
I don't
in
even
the-
think that's true because Luke doesn't go there to kill Vader. He goes there to change his mind.
That's what
I mean, that's his plan all along.
his.
So Luke's never like,
that's what
I have
mean.
the only way I
He's
can.
going against what he thinks Obi-Wan and Yoda.
I
are
don't
telling him
remember
to do.
them ever saying you have to kill Vader. Maybe
He
I need to
says
rewatch
to
it.
Obi-Wan, "I can't do it. I can't kill my own father." And
Right.
Obi-Wan says, "Well, then the Emperor's already won."
Right.
Like that seems like he may not say go
pressure.
kill your father, but that seems to me like he's saying, well, if you don't, then the whole galaxy.
Yeah, that's
No
the
pressure,
whole point.
but-
That's the whole why Luke's thing in the end is so profound because he's literally everybody's urging him to violence and he's taking like a pacifist kind of
Yeah,
thing.
and
at
to
the end.
me though,
Yeah, it gets
that's
into
what the
love.
Jedi. Forget what Obi-Wan said, but that's the whole point of the Jedi. He even says at the end when he's like, "I will not kill him. I am a Jedi." I mean, that's what the Jedi are. It's about celebration of life.
Well, I'm not saying
In
the
my
Jedi. We didn't.
mind.
Oh, well, let's get them clear. I don't think the Jedi as an idea is bad. I just think there's some people in the top organization that messed it up.
Yeah, but to
that's
me,
what-
I don't.
have a
I don't
political
count that
group that
stuff.
runs the whole thing. But I do think that in doing that, he's sort of redefining what the Jedi are. He's like saying, I decide what the Jedi are at that point. Because he's not basing that
Right.
on any teachings. He's just saying, except Yoda's original teachings, which were, you shouldn't be fighting people. You should be finding your inner peace. That's what they tell them in Empire.
Well, and that's what kind of all the good Jedi stories are. That's even what's his name does in Rebels, right? Can't remember his name now.
Filoni? Who? Oh, you're talking
No, we
about
all can't do it.
the character.
5. We're like, yeah, what's the Jedi? Not the main character.
You're talking
Kanan?
about Ezra?
Kanan, yes. All their Jedi stories about how do you become this thing outside of that group. It's like how like even Rey's supposed to be her journey by the end. It kind of goes weird. Is that's what her journey is too? They're supposed to like, how do you do this outside of, doctrine and not outside of this whole history of this?
Because
that's always the story.
One generation above the other. Like the older generation is going to tell you one thing, but you have to find your own path. That's what the story is about. So each one of these generations of Jedi, they're not supposed to just be blindly following this teaching. They're supposed to put their own spin on it, find their own way. And that's sort of what ends up happening. Even with Rey, I mean, it gets a little muddled at the end, but still, that thematically, it's there. Like she's there to find her own path, and like Luke does, sort of define what the Jedi are.
I mean, she's there to open up even more than Luke did, right? By the idea that's what they're sort of building to, the great Jedi type of thing. But yeah, then just poops up.
Yeah. They don't ultimately make that message, but they leave open for that as an idea.
So what's going to happen with Baby Yoda? That's my question.
Some big frog is going to eat him.
Started on this. If he's going to become an important enough thing that everyone's after him, but we don't hear from him 30 years later, even though
but it might not be like a world-ending important thing. It might just be a very valuable important thing.
Well, another idea is that it could be that if you want to say he does become sort of pivotal, why don't we hear about him later? Well, one thing that's barely touched on in the movies and really is only mentioned is a lot of this story is driving towards the unknown regions, and very little of the film story shows us any of what's going on there. Like we know Thrawn goes to the unknown regions.
Ahsoka
goes to the unknown.
Now we know Ahsoka's been there and came back now.
So Sabine went there to find Ezra Bridger.
Yeah.
So maybe she did. We don't know. Like,
you got to think that's
don't know what the fate of Thrawn is and all this. There's a whole other story that is like a bigger story than what we saw in the sequel.
I mean,
that could be happening on that.
Cool new animated series.
Yeah,
I would love that.
But even lore-wise,
or a new live-action series.
Yeah.
But it feels like that's where we need to push. We need to push out into the future, but away from this core galaxy kind of thing.
Baby Yoda could end up being pretty pivotal to what's going on with that.
He's the new Yoda now in the new movies that take place 800 years later, and he's the same.
I kind of think he's not going to be pivotal. I just think that he's an important piece of what's been going on about all this. Like, if it is something like Project
I hope
Harvester,
he's not just a MacGuffin, because it kind of feels like one right now.
Yeah.
That's cute. Who cares?
It could be interesting to see him get old enough to start talking and making decisions and become a character. And then you do have, I mean, I'm not saying like the call to adventure kind of thing where he becomes the Luke kind of figure, but it would be fun to see him coming to grips with that stuff from birth, as opposed to like when we see a Rey or a Luke and they discover this power when they're at puberty, which is more to the metaphor. But it would be interesting to see one of these characters it is almost a Jesus story there, because it's like, well, what if he has this power from birth and he has to learn as a child how to manage it and how to like philosophically.
Maybe he's gone.
Well, he's Moses basically too. Like
Jesus was gone for 33 years or something, or he was 33 when he came back. I can't remember, but maybe Yoda during the sequels, he's out wandering and learning or something.
Could be.
And then he returns.
I just want to trash that he doesn't take an interest in
walking the earth
wars. Like if he's
he's out walking the earth.
Yeah, like Kane and Kung Fu. But I like the idea, if he does learn, like if he does grow and learn the philosophy, then his goal wouldn't be to join in another intergalactic war. His goal would be to be out there, either spreading the good philosophy or just, being a citizen of the universe, learning and growing and becoming
walking to Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because we're not that far. I mean, I guess we're
going from town to town, having adventures.
Being a bum.
It's like
that's what being a bum. You got no job. You're a bum.
It's like David Banner from the Hulk show. Just goes from town to town and rescues people.
He's going through a transitional period.
Yeah.
Like Knight Rider.
There's a lot of room. I like the idea that we already know that this is a universe that is no stranger to galactic upheavals. The idea that we don't see these characters in the sequels doesn't mean
that's the thing too. I mean,
important to the universe, because in the scope of things, those events don't seem like the most important events in the universe.
But unless we see him explicitly die in the series or whatever, like you said, they could shoot him off in the unknown regions, and then you get to have a story that's 500 years later, and he's in it. You know, he could be part of it. Not a huge part.
That would be super
but he could
fun.
be,
Wow,
you know,
that'd be kind of
The Yoda of something 1,000 years from now, and he's the Yoda figure.
Well,
in
not
that
that
story.
long. Like,
Well, we don't know
Unless-
how long that
oh,
race-
Yoda died of old age.
Oh, Yoda might have been overindulgent. We don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
Yoda was
how much
smoking too much.
smoking and drinking, and
Yeah,
He
they
lived
get
in
off
the
partying,
stump.
man.
He's
in
not
Coruscant, they
the
lived a
best
pretty
care of
indulgent
himself.
life.
yeah,
He was
really.
living in the
Eating-
stump, Brooks, eating bog water,
I say eating,
making
snakes.
soup out of bog water.
Well, you see what Baby Yoda eats. Yeah.
Well, you don't
anything.
let a baby pick his own food. Like, you know that better than I do.
It's like he looked at the thing again. He's like, "I'll feed you. I know you're hungry."
That was
Eat your
right.
chowder
Here.
The
slop.
chowder with the living thing in
Have
it.
this bowl of snot with a,
Yeah.
Star Wars would be a tough world to live in some ways. When you go to these, I guess the real world's like Earth
Yeah.
is like that. There are countries I'm sure you go to and you can't eat a living,
I mean, I think it's probably exactly like that in the
But
real
for-
world. We just-
For a
we just
world
don't
where we've
know.
never seen a toilet,
travel.
they do seem to have a lot of dangerous culinary situations.
I like how just every table just has the nozzle. I was like, I could have done that myself.
Yeah.
It's just the
Yeah.
nozzle that comes down. It's like,
well, maybe it doesn't activate for anybody. You have to
it's
have
like,
like
what do you want? It's like the soup of the day. Like, what's that?
It's
the
a
soup jar.
vacuum hose,
Whatever-
but it's got a
whatever
biometric-
comes out of this
Yeah.
hose.
we have one hose.
Yeah.
That's whatever comes out. That's what you eat. The mystery soup.
A lot of people.
It's
want
very
to say,
seafood, yeah, because they
you
keep
sure
having their.
what?
What's that alcohol they keep drinking? The krill alcohol. They keep drinking the blue.
I don't remember.
Everything in Star Wars is blue.
No, but this is
The
on the
milk.
show though. It's the thing they're done the whole time. Because that in that episode with the Walker last year, they showed them brewing it in that one episode. Remember? And then every episode has had it in it almost. But that's who somebody's drinking it.
Oh, it's like the official.
The krill.
Yeah.
It's like shrimp. That's like shrimp whiskey, which sounds disgusting if you think about what they're talking about. But yeah, they fermented shrimp down to make some
That
sort of
is-
liqueur,
You don't know. It might be awesome.
and it's blue too. By the way.
Yeah, it's got to be blue. Probably just made by the same company. If it ain't blue,
But
I'm thankful that they visited a new planet, even if it is just an ocean world that looks just like any other ocean world.
He
It'd be
got
cool.
to spend his calamaris at a place too. That
I don't think we've
like them.
seen a world like this one. Even when we went to Camino, like you said, it looks like a different world. I would like them to see more of like in the Phantom Menace. I'd like to see them go to a world where they have to go underwater, and that's where the
Yeah.
live
I mean,
underwater.
something crazy different. You know, why not have, I don't know why they don't do this. Make a world where the sky isn't blue. Make a world where, like Mars, where the sky
I've
is
done
red.
that.
Or make the ocean red. Make the ocean green. Make it just something different so it doesn't look like an ocean on Earth. You
I
know
did
what
like
I mean?
the planet in the Last Jedi where it's covered in salt, and when they move, it's red. I thought that was
Yeah,
very
that's-
Yeah.
yeah.
It also looked just like
Yeah.
Hoth before they do that.
but it's not snow.
And the guy like bends down and says, salt. Like he didn't know what was on the planet. Like he's been, how long have you been on this planet, man? You just
Damn,
now went
Brooks.
outside. What is this stuff? Oh,
I would say
pleasing
you wouldn't
some
want
people.
that guy, but I kind of think I do want that guy. I'm not going to lick that.
And that could have been like acid chloride or something. It's
Yeah.
it's like salt.
he just keels over instantly. Acid.
Thanks,
Yeah,
thanks for clearing that up, Earl.
Yeah. Like pure
just-
poison.
At least it
Pure
had a
poison.
different color under it. I'm just saying Star Wars could stand to be a little more adventurous with its world building now that we have CG and all kinds of
Well,
effects.
they've done. I think they've done pretty good.
And the prequels that one of those Jedis gets killed on this planet with these huge weird plants. The
It
girl
looks like Mario. Yeah.
Yeah.
and a
Mario
bikini
board.
or whatever for
Well,
some
you
reason.
see a lot of those worlds in that show. You hate Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, the
that's-
Clone Wars has a
that's-
bunch of them.
Well, they should do that. That's all I'm saying.
Well, they
I'm
did
tired
do
of
that, that's
desert
what we're saying.
planets and
Like I
ice
want to see it
planets.
live action.
Desert planets
like
and
the-
ice planets.
Too
Too much.
cartoon.
I want to go to Kashyyyk, the one from the comics.
Well, that's why this episode they had a
It's
water
like-
planet.
A cool version of Kashyyyk because
yeah, where they go
didn't get a
down to the lower
satisfactory-
depths.
Yeah, I want to see what's down in the Kashyyyk depths. We never
I
got.
like the in the Thrawn books when they go to the Leia goes to the Noguri planet or whatever. That's a cool planet. Remember that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's a neat, like, weird swamp. It feels like Kashyyyk is the way they describe it, but it's a cool setting for that, which I think is really neat.
I understand in the originals they were shooting on Earth, and they didn't have budget to make a new Earth, to make an entirely new world. So it made sense. Say like, well, we got a jungle, we got a desert, we got ice, we got ocean. This is the stuff we have on Earth, you know. But now we don't have to do that anymore. You can make planets look like whatever you want.
We've been to planets that's mostly lava.
You got Mustafar.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And,
Again, an Earth-like environment, though.
I would like
Well,
to
I don't
somebody
understand
go
what-
back to
These are-
Lucifer.
Be cool if they go to a
Somebody
planet
go
with
to
really
the
light
cast-
gravity.
Well, they're
'Cause,
still like an art. Yeah.
You know, to where they jump and if they float around, because that's realistic enough. It's weird that every planet has a
But
breathable
most planets
atmosphere.
are
and,
desert and ice, though. If you look at the
yeah, but
universe, that's
they're
sort of what it
crazy.
is.
They're crazy colors, and they're not
Mars is-
frozen water. They're frozen methane and all kinds of weird stuff.
Maybe.
I would like to see the planet where the kyber crystals come from. I think that would be kind of neat.
That's an ice planet, though, too. That's what the that's what
What
the
planet is it we
Star
see
Killer base became. Though. That's what that planet is.
in Rogue One? What planet do
Really?
we see?
Jeddah,
Yeah, I mean they're doing some kyber crystal stuff there. What is that?
but that's a desert planet.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
what are they doing with the kyber crystals there? I thought
They're
that's
also there too. There are two places.
Oh,
One
okay.
is there, and one is that ice world.
okay.
The planet that they use to make Star Killer base is where the kyber
Yeah,
crystals
it's the
come
ice
from?
planet. What's it called, Sean? You know what it is. It's
I don't remember.
like an N. It's in
Well,
it's in
sucks, so
Clone
they
Wars.
destroyed it.
I'll give you a hint, Sean. It's called Ice Dogs.
It's in Clone Wars where they
That's
go
what it's
take
called.
the. It's where they used to take the Jedi's. That's where they find their.
Georgia.
That's it. It's like a Harry Potter thing. The crystal picks you. They have to like
Well,
Oh, yeah.
with their crystal and
Well,
stuff.
that sucks because they destroyed that planet. So
Yeah.
Well, this kyber crystal's out. Like, I'm pretty sure that Mortis was a giant kyber crystal, and that planet exploded, and the shards are all over the universe. So, they're out there.
Ilum. Ilum's the name of the planet.
blowing up planets all the time.
Well, that's the thing going. Well, that is a problem going forward in the Star Wars universe. Though they've destroyed both the planets that the kyber crystals come from.
Oh, they'll
Well,
find more.
If you want to get deep into the lore of it,
Or they grow, though, not just where they're.
Look what you did,
Yeah,
Andrew. Now we're getting deep into the lore. Way to go, man.
the Sith
Everyone,
have,
wake me
Well,
up when he's-
actually,
well, the Sith have like two different ways
Here I
of
go.
making a lightsaber. One is to capture an actual kyber crystal from it by killing an actual Jedi and breaking up their lightsaber and corrupting the crystal to make your own. That's what makes it red, is getting corrupted. The other is they just found a way to make a synthetic.
that's
kyber
not the
crystal,
new
so they
lore,
weren't
though.
Actual. I don't know if that exists in the new canon or not.
The new
That was-
canon
that
is
was
the
a
new canon
Legends
is
thing.
They
horrific.
did it in that. They
But
did it in a
the-
Marvel comic
the
from
idea-
the new series.
But
Yeah,
the
the,
new
idea
canon
of
is-
corrupting an existing kyber crystal from a Jedi's lightsaber, that's in the new canon.
Yeah, and that new canon is horrific because it's like they say the kyber crystal, it's like living the will that they have to like torture them until they become red. They're basically like
Yeah,
bleeding.
It's awful.
And they're living things that are bleeding. And then that's why Ahsoka gets one and turns it back white. Like you can heal them or whatever too after they've been red. I'm like, oh my God. And she has white lightsabers, right? That's why, I guess. I don't know. I watch
That's
YouTube
pretty
sometimes. I don't know. My mom gave it for me.
Well, I guess that probably covers it. On this
Yeah,
video.
excited for the next one.
Although,
We're
let's
actually
hope the
going
next one's
somewhere.
like 20 minutes long because it went from 50 something, 56 to 42 to 36. And it's like 7 minutes of credits. So it's like
Yeah.
a 30-minute
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, I
It's like-
noticed that they're getting short, but I'm
Don't
glad that
mind
we're at
that.
least. I'm glad we're going somewhere with the story. We're not just
Right.
like I'm looking for a Jedi. Okay, next episode I'm looking for a Jedi. Okay, next
Right.
episode I'm looking for a Jedi. Like, oh my
yeah,
god,
hopefully they get through this episode.
find a
That'd be
Jedi
great.
already.
That'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
I'd enjoy that. And I like that the episode length varies because they just tell the story they have to tell there. They're not padding it out. So I do appreciate that.
And if he's
Missions are-
fighting alongside Ahsoka Tano, I mean, they're going to be unstoppable, right? Who's going to be able to beat both of them together? He's already a super badass, apparently.
Well,
Everyone stop talking. Sorry.
Yeah.
I killed it. Bye.
He's like,
Well, we can only assume too that Ahsoka Tano's up into some business of her own. She may have her own bad guy to
Their own
deal with.
enemies.
Right.
Yeah.
There's like if there's a fake Jedi running around and there's a fake Sith, there's always like that's what I loved about Rebels. They just brought in those Inquisitors and it was this whole other order that we didn't know
Yep.
about.
That's what the Knights of Ren should have been.
Yeah.
oh yeah, they
Kind of
cool.
cool bad guy, but nope.
Well, maybe you guys should have watched Rebels. Jesus. Like,
Well, I
you guys-
will.
I'm not talking
I just
about
don't-
you. I'm talking about the people who made those damn
Okay.
movies.
I agree.
I'm talking about
Well,
J.J. Abrams and Chris
Yeah,
Terrio.
J.J. Abrams.
Oh,
Crap. What is
Stop.
I mean, they
stealing
could
that
always
I
make
don't
the
watch
Knights-
it because I have things to do. JJ
Well,
Abrams,
they could always make the
this
Knights
is your
Ren
job.
cool
You
as they
have
get
time.
closer. I mean, they could always develop that backstory as they get closer to that period. I mean, we're only 15 years away from that, so they could maybe they're an older kind of group of people. You know?
Like, will they predate Ren?
Yeah,
Like,
that's not his
Kylo
real
took
name.
Ren. I guess Ren is something else. Then they did. I thought they were named after him. I guess
Kylo Ren could be that's the king, the Dalai Lama name or something like that. You know what I mean?
it'd be, or it'd be like Darth.
Well,
like Ren is
I
like
didn't
a
read
Darth.
that comic,
that
so I don't
goes
know
on
where the name Ren comes from. Like, I assume that prequel comic they made would have explained how the Knights of Ren and Kylo came across.
They would be cool in this series. Yeah, you know, like they're.
Well, did they
Bandits,
ever
yeah.
establish that? Like, I mean, did Kylo Ren create the Knights of Ren? Or
I don't know. It was just some bullshit that
You know,
J.J.
Yeah, I know,
came
it's
out
just-
with.
I
Like,
know.
Mystery box, man.
Yeah.
Let's make some cool stuff and
know.
don't worry about it.
And
I don't know why you do Mystery Box
hires
twice in a row.
great
It's like,
actors and actresses and puts helmets on them and you never see
I'm gonna
them.
bring it back. Here it comes. Here it comes.
Right.
Here's it's gonna be cool this time. Like nothing less than the first one. You're like, okay, well,
Never mind.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody. That was Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 3. Pretty good. We're psyched about Episode 4. And we will definitely get back with you. Check out Marvel Age Star Wars on YouTube, which you're probably watching this video on. Check out our other videos. We have
Yeah,
some
where we
fun
actually
stuff.
do
We're
talk about
talking
the
about the
Marvel
old
Star Wars
vintage, the Marvel Star Wars comics, the vintage ones, which have their own continuity, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And we got other stuff going on there.
yeah, it'll be a
Check
while,
out
but there's
TV Ate My
Mandalorians
Dinner
pop
also.
up in that comic.
TV
at
Ate My
some
Dinner.com.
point. So we'll have to check out
It's
when
true.
the Mandalorians actually do appear in the Marvel Star
True.
Wars comic. That's fun.
It's true. It's true. A lot of people think that
Yeah.
there's a famous cover that you see on T-shirts of one of the Marvel issues. It's got Boba Fett on it, and it's like a real iconic image, but that's actually not Boba Fett.
Nope, it's Finn.
It's an actual Mandalorian. Not a lot of people know that.
about Finn Shisha. Yeah.
So we'll get to that eventually. But check out tv8mydinner.com. That's where you can hear more of Andrew and Greg. And we'll see you soon next week, I guess, for Mandalorian Episode 4.
Now stand by for 7 minutes of credits.
The Jedi.
Yeah, I want you to do that, Sean. Add 7 minutes to credits.
and
to the
here's
end
our
of this show.
Ukrainian graphics department, and then it just goes through all them. It's like, geez.
Thanks for watching,
7 minutes
everybody.
of credits. Sean's drawings, of me and Andrew.
Get concept
Oh,
art.
yeah, that would be cool.
I'll just do like pastel concept art of us each on a sticker ball.
Crayon stick figures.
That would be awesome.
I could just use poster edges. I noticed some of those they're not using.
Yeah.
They're not doing concept art. I just that's a still with poster edges applied to it.
Yeah.
That's not concept.
That's a filter, an iPhone filter. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay, we'll see you guys. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Snoop.